Hello and welcome back to the channel. It's going to be something a little bit different this week because I have not had the chance to get my sort of normal Fruit Machine / Fruit Machine emulation video done because I have been over in the UK. My granddad died and I have been over in the UK for the funeral, stayed over for a few days to see the family as well. So I hope you can appreciate that the normal kind of stuff has not happened this week. However, I did, whilst I was over there, spend a little bit of time playing the Fruit Machines of the UK. So I've got some footage of that and a couple of descriptions of my experiences with Fruit Machines in the UK. So I'll go through that, and that will basically just have to be the video this week, I'm afraid. But like I say, I hope you can understand that I just basically haven't had the chance or the opportunity to do anything else. So starting off at Ronaldsway Airport here on the Isle of Man, these were the two machines that were in the departures lounge at Ronaldsway Airport on the Isle of Man. Now, before you go through to departures, if you're just like in the public area where you can do arrivals and you can just kind of walk in off the street, they've got a bank job going for gold, which is possibly the most fucked fruit machine I have ever seen. I think there are more lamps out on that thing than are actually working, and I shit you not, they've done such a bad real replacement job on one of them that the numbers on the sort of symbols on the reels are actually drawn in with a marker. It's the worst fruit machine you've ever seen. I didn't play it because I was just getting straight through to departures, and this is what they had: Monopoly Takeover and a Blueprint gaming cab, which, as you can see there, appears to have a broken top screen. Now, the Takeover there is your standard £100 jackpot, £1 play AWP. The Blueprint cabs here, I know they are in pubs over in the UK now. However, whereas you're on like a £1 £100 jackpot, so that's £1 play, £100 jackpot, on the Isle of Man we're at the £2 play and £500 jackpot setting where these cabs turn up. However, as you can see there, the noti is blanked off. It's one of these hangovers from when we didn't have noties on fruit machines. So the noti is blanked off. The Blueprint cab to me looked fucked because the top screen wasn't working. I didn't have any pound coins on me, and I didn't want to, so obviously I can't put notes into a machine with no noti, and I wasn't particularly minded to put notes into a machine where the top screen appeared to be broken, so I did not play either of those two machines, and I then flew over to Manchester Airport. At Manchester Airport, they've now extended the Metrolink all the way down to Manchester Airport. Normally I would sail and my dad or brother would pick me up from Heysham or Liverpool, depending on where I sailed to, but they were not able to pick me up on this occasion. So I said, or rather it would have been awkward for them to do so. So I said, don't worry, I'll just fly into Manchester and I'll get the Metrolink all the way up to Bury. And it does work very well. I landed in Terminal 3. You've then got a fair old hike to where the Metrolink and sort of train interchange is. But from there, effectively, you can fly into Manchester Airport, get on the Metrolink at Manchester Airport. That then took me all the way up to Manchester Victoria, which is right in the centre of Manchester. You just do a little change at Manchester Victoria. I mean, literally just like over to the other side of the platform that you're already on. And then the Metrolink from there took me all the way up to Bury. And it's a fair old hike on the Metro. It's about an hour and 40 minutes, give or take, because you're basically going from one end of the entire Metrolink system to the other. That's the Premier Inn that I was staying at in Bury. Myself, Mrs. Degsy and Degsy Jr. stayed there last year when we came over, and part of the reason for that visit was so that Degsy Jr. could see her great Gramps, because we didn't know how long he had left. So obviously we're very glad that we made that trip. This Premier Inn here was great. It's not the most salubrious location. You're not going to get a room with a view. Obviously, I was at the back there, so I had a gorgeous vista over the Metrolink tracks. But the place itself, it's a new build. It's modern. It's clean. The staff in there are fantastic. They're so friendly. It's just a nice place to stay. It doesn't cost the earth either. And if I just go out using the wonder of Google Street View here, basically the Metrolink comes into Bury Interchange here. So just kind of under the ground there is where the Metrolink comes in. It's sort of under the ground there-ish. And you can see there, that's the Premier Inn. Just over the road. It's literally just over the road, so it's super convenient. And all my family live not too far away. We haven't gone too far, we haven't fallen too far from the nest in the main, apart from me, who ended up on the Isle of Man. So we live in Radcliffe and Bury and Ramsbottom and all that kind of thing, so none of us are too far away, and it's super handy for my brother to just collect me from there. And there is that Premier Inn. There you can see. I think I was in the room, the second floor room in that Premier Inn. So having arrived here on day one, this was what I saw in the hotel bar. They have a decent little restaurant. I mean, obviously a lot of it's just repackaged, heated up food. I'm sure that they're not doing full Indian and Asian curries out the back and all that sort of thing. So there's an element of reheated food going on, but it's a nice, friendly place. You can get a decent meal there for reasonable money. They've got a bar and they've got a fruit machine, so that was fine for me. The idea was originally that me and my brother would have gone out for a few beers of an evening, but he messaged me to let me know that, I'm really tired, because he's working nights at the moment, so he sleeps a bit all over the place. So he said, do you mind if I bin for tonight? And I said, no problem, just get some rest. The most important thing is that you're rested for the funeral. I can take care of myself. I've got a bar, I've got food, I've got a fruit machine, I will be fine. But before I set about the fruit machine in the hotel, I walked up to this Wetherspoons. It's the art picture house. It's kind of in the centre of Bury, just over the road from the interchange there, as you can see. This used to be, obviously, a cinema back in the day. I've got it in my head that in the early 90s, when me and my friends were drinking out and about in Bury, and then me and the future Mrs. Degsy, I think it was a bingo hall. I've got it in my head that in the early 90s it was a bingo hall, but it is now a Wetherspoons pub, and this is really my old stomping ground. The Knowsley there, we used to drink in the Knowsley all the time, and I am talking, £4.80 and £6 jackpot days. We used to drink in the Knowsley. Centre of Bury, it's not changed a huge amount, if I'm honest with you. This is all the area that we used to go out and drink in. Now that place there, that's a new pub. I've got to be slightly on that. It looks a little bit rough, that Rainer's place. I'm not entirely sure I'd feel comfortable going there and playing the machines, and God help me if I won. So all I did on my first sort of evening and afternoon into the evening, as I arrived, I went up to the Wetherspoons here, which is the art picture house, got a couple of pints of cask ale, and my God, beer is cheap. I asked for a pint of Odin, which was showing £2.25 on the pump itself. And a pint of Odin, there you go, thank you. Oh, it's £1.99 because it's Monday. I'm like, what really, a pint for £1.99? That's quite something. So they had 5 fruit machines in there, 5 of the buggers. I think there is a school of thought that says that Wetherspoons are almost single-handedly responsible for maintaining the fruit machine, inverted commas, industry in the UK. And yeah, they had 5 machines in there. Now, 2 of them were blueprint cabs. One of them was like a shiny new one, and one of them was obviously a little bit older and a little bit crapper. They seem to have the same selection of games on them. I quite like that Worms game that you can get on the blueprint cabs. So I put about 40 quid through worms on £1 ago. I mean, it's on a dog shit percentage for a random game. The help screen said it was on an 88% payout. That is really awful for a random game, but that is ultra low variance. A £100 jackpot on a £1 play, that is 100 times stake. I mean, random slots like that online simply do not exist. The absolute lowest variance slot that you will find online has maybe a 500 times stake jackpot. So I don't mind worms. I put a few quid through that. I think I ended up winning a tenner on it after a little while. I then tried, it was a Betcom. It was a straight clone of Jackpot Jaws. They had Jackpot Jaws and one that was obviously a reglass of it called Bluebeard's Treasure or Bluebeard's Bounty or something. I put 20 quid on that and it was absolutely on its arse. I wasn't expecting much because I'm thinking, town centre pub Betcoms, they're going to be getting forced all the time. I didn't want to get too involved. It took a 20 off me in fairly cold blood. I gave it a second 20 and it just wasn't really livening up. So on the back end of a board, I just took a cash or bust when it landed a mystery, and it actually did a cash or bust for 25 quid. I thought, you know what, I'll take that. That's not too bad. They also had, like I said, Jackpot Jaws in there and a donned, it had like a 3D cube on it. It's like a donned big squares or something. It was a little bit of one of the more modern dons. That took a tenner off me in absolutely cold blood on 50p a go. It just about boarded towards the arse end of the tenner and killed me. It was one of those obvious horrible £3 block boards. So I should have cash or busted it. I didn't. It killed me on the mystery. That was a tenner for like one really bad board. So I'd had 2 pints by then. I finished my second pint and then walked back to the hotel, got another drink and set about Game of Gnomes. So there is Game of Gnomes and there is my drink next to it. And because I'm back at the hotel at that point, I feel comfortable, I feel fairly secure. I thought, you know what? I'm just going to force this thing out if it's got any signs of life in it whatsoever. So I put 20 quid into it, and I can't remember exactly how it did it, but it offered me about 6 quid. I think it was off the little sort of cash meter thing in the middle there. That thing there, I think, offered me 6 quid or something like that. It was a shot over a fiver. One way or another, it offered me over a fiver. And I've still got in my head, it may be completely wrong these days, that these things will still block at a fiver if they are absolutely dead. So with it having showed the vaguest sense of life, I set about forcing it. Had some slight issues with it actually taking money off me, as you can see here. It liked to, once you could get it to like eat the £20 note, it did like to spit it out, as you can see there. And there it is again, failing to take another £20 note. I had quite a bit of cash on me, so I was able to cycle through the notes. I mean, I'm not quite sure why I videoed so many of these attempts that I had to put money in. These note changers are just awful. Why are they so bad at actually taking money, which is the one job that they have? There you go, 20 quid going into the bank. And I very quickly ended up like 60 quid in, but it did then finally start £25 shotting, as you can see there. And then it finally started to get a little bit live. You can see that I've got a cash vault of 36 quid, getting a little bit reckless on the gambling there. I thought, you know what, I'll go lower than a 10, because if it goes lower than this 10, this may well be the board. And of course it killed me. And here we are with a £48 cash vault, and it's still basically every single mystery. First time I landed on a mystery, it would kill me every single time on this thing. But then it finally caved for a go all the way. I've got to be honest, there's a £100 shot. Got to be honest with you, I was 160 in at this point. Not even because it's a reflex. I don't even think it works like a Betcom where you get the 100 or the 150. So at 155, Because you see, I've got a fiver in the bank at 155 quid in. The fucking thing finally caved for a red Mega Streak. And you can see how that panned out for me here. There was no sound on this machine at all. It was completely mute. I was getting a little bit brassed off with it, I've got to be honest with you. But did finally get the red Mega Streak. And let's see how that pans out for me. It's a Reflex. Will it go past 100? Or will it be a flat 100? Answers on a postcard, please. And yes, we all know how that one's going to pan out. 160 in. I did try it for an afterboard, but there was nothing there. It was back on its arse, basically. So in the end, I collected a bank of £100 from 160 in. So I took a loss of £60 on that machine. It was not the most entertaining time I've had, but it did pass a bit of time on, so it's quite a slow machine to play. You know what modern machines like, they dick you around something awful. So it did at least fulfill its task, which was just to pass a bit of time on. So finished. I had a couple of pints while I was playing that. I'd had the forethought to go up into the centre of Bury and visit one of the little saver shops there and bought myself a couple of bottles of red wine, because I learned the hard way last year when we all came over to visit and we stayed in this hotel, that if you buy a bottle of wine from behind the bar, it's going to cost you 16 quid. But if you just walk over the road into Bury Town Centre, you can get a bottle of Hardy's from one of the saver shops there for a fiver. So I'd already furnished myself with a couple of bottles of wine. So once I'd done that, I got some tea, got a meal in the restaurant there. A rather nice chicken tikka makihani sort of Indian meal. It came with curry, rice, poppadom, naan bread and some chutney. That was okay. And then I retired to my room, had a bottle of red, knocked myself out with a 20mg temazepam, which is on prescription, by the way, because I do know it's a class B if you don't have a prescription for it, and slept the night away, ready for my granddad's funeral the next day. So the next day, my brother picked me up for my granddad's funeral. I was collected from the hotel at 10:30. We parked on that street there, and then we went to Sillits here, do the funeral services. They were really good. So all the family were parked here, and we were parked over the road, and my Gramps was in there, and we were all stood out in the car park here, and I did make the choice to go in and take a look at my Gramps, because he was in an open coffin, and I thought, you know what, I'll go and see him one last time. In a way, I didn't want to, but I thought, you know, if I don't go and see him one last time, I'm really going to regret it. And I'd kind of been ready for it, because like I said, we all came over to visit. Myself, Mrs. Degsy and Degsy Jr., we all came over to Manchester, to Radcliffe last year, and we made a particular point of going up to see my Gramps, which is, of course, Degsy Jr.'s great-grandpa. We went up to his house and we had a chat with him. We stayed for a cup of tea, and he showed us around and all that. And so Degsy Jr. did at least get the chance to meet her great-grandpa, because she'd never seen him before. And I've seen an awful lot of him over the years, because I'm from a single-parent family. My mum and dad divorced when I was young. My grandparents on both my mum and dad's side picked up a lot of the caring duties, because my dad was working all the time. So he was, you know, my grandparents on both sides were kind of like, you know, they were kind of like parents to me. So, and I'd always kept in touch with me Gramps all over the years. And even when me and Mrs. Degsy first started going out together, we'd go to the New Inn on Ainsworth Road, because my dad and one of his brothers would take me Gramps out every week. And we'd go and have a few drinks together and have a chat. So I was kind of ready for it, because when we'd gone over last year in 2017, he was obviously old and frail. When he died, he was 89. When we saw him last year, He was 88. He was still all there. He was living in his own house. If you want fierce independence, my Gramps was absolutely the epitome of it. And he was still all there. His body was clearly sort of old and failing, but all his marbles were still there. He was still the same man I'd always known. But at the same time, I remember saying to Mrs. Degsy as we were leaving, you know what, I'm glad we've done that, because I'm not sure how many years he's got left in him. And as it turned out, it was just one more year, because he died not that long ago. So I went through to the viewing room, and got to be honest with you, I kind of fell apart a little bit, went to bits. One of my cousins was in there, and she had rather more forethought than me, and she was able to hand me. I hadn't planned ahead. I kind of thought I was going to cry and kind of fall apart a little bit, and I did. But one of my cousins had a tissue ready, so that was fine. So and it was, even though it was sad, it was, the family was all together. So those of us who wanted to, not everyone wanted to go in, but those of us who wanted to got to saw my Gramps one last time, and then we went out to the crematorium down Cemetery Road in Radcliffe here. This is where I grew up. This is just, we used to play in these, it's gone a little bit, there's more houses and greenery up here now, but this was all my old kind of playground when I was younger, because everyone was fucking poor, nobody fucking had anything, so you just went out and played in the back-ins and the fields and the canals. You sort of made your own entertainment, really. So we went out to the crematorium, which is just through the Google car didn't go through those gates, but through there is the crematorium itself. And there was a really nice service. There was quite a good number of the family turned up, and it was a simple sort of Christian service. And one of my uncles had kind of written the is it a eulogy, I think you call it, where it described my Gramps' life and all the rest of it. And again, it got. I was kind of trying to keep my shit together, but didn't quite manage it because it was going on. I have so many happy memories of my grandparents. My grandma on my dad's side unfortunately died many years ago in 1993. So my Gramps was my last surviving family member, or my grandparent on my dad's side. And I've got to be honest, me and me dad were kind of in bits, but as we all, once the service had finished and the curtains had closed, and we went outside and all the family was there and we were chatting to each other, and we kind of got ourselves back together, and then it was time to go on for the wake. And the wake was held here at the Sparking Clog. And this is finally, there is a reason that I've got Globetrotter, the Pook DX of Globetrotter running here. Because the Sparking Clog was one of the pubs that me and my mates used to go to back in 1991. It was a kind of newish build back then, and it was one of the earlier sort of foodie type pubs. It wasn't just a pub. It was a pub where you could go and get a meal and drink as well. Me and my friends, we would. It's a little bit off the beaten track. You've got to walk out of Radcliffe quite a bit. So it's not a massive hike or anything, but you do have to make a slight effort to come out here. But we used to drink in this pub in 1991 and 1992, and it was quite a good pub to come to because they always had 2 fruit machines, a quiz machine, a pinball, a pool table, and a dartboard. So for us, when we were like 17, 18, because we could get served in here when we were 17, this was one of our favourite pubs to come out to. We'd have a stroll out to the Sparking Clog as we were doing a round of the pubs in Radcliffe. This was somewhere that we always used to come to. The point is that I remember absolutely with crystal clarity that they had a Globetrotter in the Sparking Clog. Probably must have been 1992, something like that. But that was a machine that they had in there, and they had the Fair Play high-low reel. I've already covered the Fair Play high-low reel on the channel. I think it's a crisscross cache using the Ploggy DX, but I just happen to have an absolute crystal clear memory of Globetrotter being in there, which is, I'm talking, it must be 26 or 27 years ago they had a Globetrotter in the Sparking Clog. So this is where the wake was. And I've got to be honest with you, it was a happy affair. I think there was, there were a lot of tears and a lot of sadness at the service itself. But once the family got together, we had a reserved section because we'd kind of booked in as like a party, if you will. So they kind of cordoned off a section out in the conservatory area here. In fact, yeah, that area there was kind of all for us. It had our name up on the wall. And they blocked it off with chairs. It wasn't the most. It wouldn't have held back the zombie hordes in the zombie apocalypse, but it's our own little area. And there was a buffet that came out that had obviously been pre-ordered, and a good number of the family got together and had a decent chat in there. And it was, I've got to be honest with you, it was a fairly happy occasion because there were a lot of good memories of me Gramps, and we all get on together. We're one of those families. We don't fight and we don't squabble. And even though we can not see each other for years and years and years, you can put us all in a room together and we'll chat and get on with each other like we see each other every day. So it was a really positive experience having the wake here, and for some of us who had not seen each other for an awful long time, all getting the chance to get together and have a good chat. Now, as I'm sure you're aware, old habits die very, very hard, or not at all. So I did clock the 2 fruit machines that they had in there. Got this pair here, Oliver's Twist and Deal or No Deal Golden Ticket. They also had a Blueprint gaming cab, but it was one of the older ones, and it was a Games Tech. I'm telling a lie, it was a Games Tech multi-game video screen cab, and it was absolutely fucked. One of the touch screens didn't work properly at all. I was kind of trying to go through the games and look at what was on there, and didn't put a single penny in it. So we were in here for, we were in for like 5 or 6 hours altogether. The people who were there from start to finish, we were in there for 5 or 6 hours. So once a few beers had got on board and the group had kind of settled down a little bit, I did take it upon myself to thought, you know what, Oliver's Twist, I've heard, because you can't quite see it there. If you recognise it, you recognise it. But there you go, that logo there is Oliver's Twist. And it's a Betcom, you can see the lovely Betcom logo there. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to have a crack at Oliver's Twist. I've never seen one before. We've got none of them as far as I'm aware. Certainly I haven't seen one on the Isle of Man. So I thought, you know what, I'll have a little crack at Oliver's Twist. Fed it a £20 note, and I can't remember what it did. The first 20 quid was absolute dog shit. So I thought, I'll go another 20 in. If it does another 20 and does nothing, I'm just going to walk away. But what it started doing for the second 20, so the 20 to 40, the twist meter there started filling up to over a tenner. It offered me, I think it was a £7.50. Is there a £7.50 on there? Am I making that up? It offered me one of the better cash shots and that kind of thing. So I decided to just force it out. And in the end, it didn't actually go too bad. And I did get some videos of that. So basically what happened is it really started livening up at about 50 to 60 in, started adding up the twist meter really quite high. It was opening up the game and the super game and the mega game and all that. So you know what it's like with Betcoms. The only variable is how long will it hold on for. Now there were a few bulbs out on this. I think you can even see there, just from that single picture there, that there's quite a few bulbs that should be on, which aren't working, even in a track mode there. But what eventually happened, after it killed me off and killed me off and killed me off, I got a board that, it wasn't an invincible board. As far as I'm aware, it didn't show that it was invincible, but it just kind of locked me into the top board there and kept doing the twist arrows into the twist spin in the middle. I think what it did in the end, I think it filled up all these icons here for the Mega Streak. I'm not entirely sure because there were so many bulbs out, but it just kept landing on those sort of concentric arrows there, and once it did that enough times, it just kicked off the Mega Streak. I think I was 75 or 85 in. 75 or 85, I can't remember which, I honestly can't, but either way, once it kicked off the Mega, I was like, well, you know what, I'm a few quid up here, whatever happens, because I'm less than 100 quid in, and this, we can see the end result there. That is the finish of the Mega. It did do, as you can see there, it did the 150, and there is the 150, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to fucking film myself collecting the bank out of this thing, because I know that Betcom note changes are notoriously awful. Bearing in mind that I'm not even on the same landmass that I live, I didn't particularly fancy me chances if it didn't pay out of having an easy time getting the money back, so I thought, you know what, I'll just film the whole thing. It paid out 20 quid in coins. Then it paid out 60 quid in notes, as you can see here. I think there's one more note coming out. And then it paid out the last 80 quid. So I got 90 quid in coins. And I got 60 quid in notes. However, they were very good at the bar. And they did change. There we are, there it all goes. They did change that 90 quid for me at the bar. So overall, like I say, we were there for about 5 or 6 hours. That's me brother there, by the way, with the bald head and the shades. He's vaping there, I believe, which he says is just like eating a mint. I would not know. I cannot comment on that personally. But we had a decent time there, and after that, it was time for me to get back to the hotel. I think we left about 6, half 6, something like that. And then my dad ran me back to the hotel, and I was going to make my own way back to the airport the next morning. So that was the last time that I was. So I said all my goodbyes to the family, said goodbyes to my brother and his wife and their children, and then my dad dropped me back off at the hotel, gave him a big hug, and said I'll see you soon, and he dropped me off back at the hotel. And then the following morning I set off nice and early to get back to the Isle of Man, because it was like I said, a fair haul back on the Metrolink back down to Manchester Airport. And oh my god, the security at Manchester Airport. If you haven't, I have not been through like a large international airport for a long time. I generally sail. It's not that I'm like afraid of flying or anything. I just don't like it, and I don't like airports, and they haven't got better. It was like some kind of 1984 Orwellian nightmare, being shunted through security and having orders barked at you. You must remove all of these things from your bags before you get to the security point. If you are not in compliance, you will be made to wait 30 to 45 minutes whilst we manually check your bags. And then the guy actually came down and said, we're having too many rejections from this queue. And I'm like, why are you telling me? What the fuck has that got to do with me if my queue is not behaving itself properly? What has that got to do with me? I've got to be honest, the whole airport experience, Manchester Airport, was a fucking nightmare. I absolutely hated every single minute of it. And I could not just wait to get up in the air and get back to the Isle of Man. We kind of pay to be sort of treated like criminals, as it were. It's like, like prisoners in the yard kind of thing. And I mean, and people around me were kind of grumbling and quite discontented, and with very good reason, to be honest. It was by far and away the worst experience of the whole trip, was going through security at Manchester Airport. That was very unpleasant, and it has kind of renewed my resolve in future to just sail. So overall, of course, it was a sad visit, because I was there for my granddad's funeral, but I think it was positive, and we all agreed it was a positive thing. It was a positive experience in the end, because we all got together as a family, and I did like the story of my Gramps when he was going down. It was actually pneumonia that took him out. It was the cause of death was pneumonia, but when he was in the hospital, and I think he knew he was dying, and we all agreed he knew he was dying because he'd gone through the stage of sorting out the photos in his home into like different piles for who belonged to who. And when he was full of tubes and drips and all the rest of it, he ripped them out and tried to get out of the hospital. He didn't get very far because he was dying of pneumonia. But I was talking to me dad and me uncles, and we all agreed that he went out on his own terms, because I think to him, because he was still living in his own house, he was living independently, the idea of being cared for, the idea of moving in with somebody else or going into a home, he would not have that at all. And one of my cousins kind of sort of said, I'm not sure who it would be harder on if someone had to care for Gramps. Would it be harder on him or the person who had to do it? He absolutely defined fierce independence. So even though it was super, super sad, we were kind of like, you know what? That fellow went out on his own terms. It was like, I am going to get out of this hospital and I'm going to get home, or I'm going to die trying. And he died trying. And you know what? I respect that. That's not a bad way to go. If I had to choose, I'd go on my own terms like me Gramps did. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this video. I also hope that you can appreciate it something a little bit different. Everything's been a little bit blown sideways this week, so I just thought I'd try and get something done for the usual Friday video, and hopefully will be, normal service will be resumed next week. But that is it. That is goodbye for now, and goodbye to Gramps.
Filming the road.
Yeah, Alex is in a travel log for his YouTube channel of his 5 followers.
550, I think I'll have